This is Pattern Unboxed, where we are talking to all of the thought leaders within Pattern and then just kind of dive into what they do, how they got to Pattern, and what they're working on and what they're excited about. So normally I have the guests introduce themselves, but I feel like I could actually do the introduction for this one. Today we are delighted to have my man Trygve Jensen. I would not be sitting in this chair if it wasn't for my boy Trig. You're a president here at Pattern, right?
Yeah, president over creators and social commerce.
President of Creators and Social Commerce. But yeah, I'll actually just pass it over to you and for you to do a probably better introduction.
Yeah, so I mean, for anyone that's wondering what that role is, right? So it's everything influencer marketing at Pattern, which is a part software. So we have a software that helps brands run affiliate programs and influencer marketing campaigns, do payments, taxes, all the stuff that you have to do a big influencer program. And now with the evolution of TikTok, we run everything TikTok Shop for our clients here at Pattern. So everything from shop operations, affiliate recruitment, paid ads, content creation, live streams. So even what we're doing today, I feel like I recognize some of the stuff in the room, right? It's all of our live studio production stuff for TikTok Shop. So it's awesome.
Cool. So we'll get into like all of the Pattern stuff, but I mean, I know a lot of this. I'm blessed to know a lot about your story, but why don't you share your story? Because it's interesting. Like a lot of the other thought leaders that we've had on, like Carolyn and JLB, they have these very kind of traditional paths of getting an MBA at places like Kellogg and working at Amazon and working at all these really big businesses, which is amazing and really cool. And they have that very like polished corporate America vibe, but are still cool. You have certainly like a far different track record on how you got to Pattern. Obviously I do too, just because I've been following you around. So why don't you kind of go into how you got to where you are now at Pattern?
Yeah, I mean, the origin story for me starts right out of college. So maybe feels typical, like movie script. I did what I thought was the right thing and studying the hardest thing in accounting and getting into the program and then decided to go finance right out of school at JP Morgan and was not cut out for that. I think I could have been decent at it, right? Like I feel like my skills were fine, but my mentality for a large corporate environment that felt a little bit like zero-sum game to me. We weren't building anything. There wasn't a lot of like creativity and product content. I just felt like I was missing something, and I recognized that like basically like a month in. And so this is like 2011. This was so long ago. But I just woke up one day, had an idea, and for whatever reason decided I'm just going to do it. And I'd always been an entrepreneur as a kid, like, and didn't know it, right? And I tell this story a lot to people where like I thought like a lot of people were like me, that they wanted to take risks, that they cared a ton about everything that they did, and they wanted to start a company. And later on you kind of realize like, oh, that's uncommon. You know, people don't necessarily want to do that. And I think I had that in me from the very, very beginning. So I started that first company, and that was all influencer marketing, but we couldn't even call it that because brands didn't know what that was. So it sounds stupid now, but we had to come up with all sorts of crazy ways to pitch influencer marketing to brands.
Didn't we call it native advertising?
Yeah, like native advertising.
Yeah.
We use the word publishers because brands understood publishers.
Sure.
Because they're like, oh, it's like a blog post, but it's on Facebook or Twitter. They're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And at first it was kind of a new thing brands wanted to test into, and then it became a big industry. And right at the turn of that, you know, when YouTube was really taking off with creator marketing, Instagram was really gaining significant traction in the US. My first company was acquired in 2014. That's how you and I met.
Yeah.
and and then we built a big influencer business there, right? So that was for the next 4 years, like cut my teeth running kind of a tech enabled agency is how I would frame it, right? You were selling deals for us. And that was kind of the heyday of premium influencer. So like the micro influencer, UGC, none of that had really entered the market. I mean, it
Yeah.
existed, right? But no one was commercializing it, monetizing it. And we could see that coming. Like if you're in the industry, you recognize that there was like a pricing problem, right? You had huge YouTubers charging $250,000 for a video, and the brand wanted to know like, what do I get for that? And you really could not tell them. You told them you get a video with this great creator. That's what you get.
Didn't we sell it off of engagement?
Yeah, well, even that was super novel and actually really cool. Is we would sell deals on number of engagements produced. Industry was kind of selling on views or CPM or just nothing, and and then we were like, hey, well, the best creators actually drive engagement, right? Because you can sort of game views a little bit and some of the other metrics, but engagement's really hard to fake at the time. And so that business was super cool. I think in the last year of that business, we saw a lot of those trends though around micro influencers being really really powerful. There was also a big push into commerce, which again, all this seems obvious now, but influencer marketing was not all that commerce focused. Like D2C brands were not using influencers as a big channel to drive sales, right? They would do it to help launch a product or kind of use the likeness of an influencer, but it wasn't all the affiliate codes, discount codes, all the stuff that you see now was way less common, frankly, like not non-existent. And some of that was related to the software tools that we developed and others developed, but a lot of it was new to the market. And so that was really the beginning of the second company, was leaving the other one, starting Current, and really wanting to build a tool that enabled brands to measure directly the success of influencer marketing, help them find creators in an automated way that would perform for their brand, right? So how do I find the right people that are actually going to produce results? And I also felt like there needed to be more transparency in the market. I was kind of over the business model, or I thought the business model of arbitraging creators' payments from brands and being a middleman in that was at threat, right? Like, and I know that there's tons of agencies that still do that and they run great businesses, and that's totally fine. I still view it as in threat. I don't think I wouldn't invest in those businesses, because I think the creators are way more savvy now. They can work directly with the brands. And I think software can handle 98% of the back and forth required between brands and creators or their manager or agent. And so really software is the facilitator, and I think AI will make it even more so.
And then obviously you started Current, and then Pattern acquired Current. It's cool to talk about because a lot of these other conversations I've had, I've talked with our leaders why they made the decision to leave, whether they're at Amazon or Philips or these huge companies, and go to Pattern, and what made it such a tantalizing or exciting offer. Why Pattern? And can you just like kind of walk through the acquisition of Current, and Current becoming Pattern and Pattern Creators?
Yeah, I think, we had been running Current for 3.5 years, and the business was going really well, and it was super interesting in terms of growth. It was getting competitive, still is really competitive in just that space. And I think it ultimately came down to us deciding, okay, should we raise money? We had, term sheets to do that. And we also were kind of break even with it, as like we ran the team pretty lean. It was kind of an automated setup in the way that we were doing sales, the way we were doing customer success. Like it wasn't a really heavy organization, services organization. And so I felt pretty good about where we were as a business. But I think when I came and talked to Dave and Newell and some of the other people that really led our deal, I just felt like there's no way for us to ever build the data moat that Pattern has. Like I'm not going to be able to ever have access to this level of data across all the marketplaces and all these brands. I think I could maybe go get these customers, but I'm not going to have access to them at the level that Pattern does. And then I loved that Pattern had such a forward vision for technology and that they were super profitable, right? So it's a super profitable business that is also hyper aggressive in developing the future e-commerce tool stack required to win long term. That's actually really hard to have both, right? So if you look at the venture market or you look at the software market of e-commerce, most of these companies are losing like $100 million to get to market and develop what would be kind of world-class used by brands. Pattern is, because of the business model and because of the way Dave has set up the company, is frankly it's a unicorn. It's so rare to have this setup where we can be profitable, cash flow positive, and make huge tech bets and disrupt ourselves and continue to innovate. So I saw that in the first couple meetings, and I'm like, oh, well, I could just come here, still crank the vision out and build awesome stuff and be enabled by a great team, and also go faster and build more disruption than I could have on my own. And I made some money too, so you just do it.
Yeah. It's so funny. I'm always like, yeah, like the reason I wanted to start doing these podcasts and talk to all of these people at Pattern is because there's like, the first thing that I noticed was there were some like really big brains at Pattern, like really smart people. But then every time I say that, I'm always like, oh, I hope all the current people don't get mad that I'm just like, yeah, I like this new company. There's way smarter people. But that said, it kind of was like, hindsight's obviously 2020, but it seemed to work out and kind of be this perfect marriage. And also I know the term like synergies is overused, but like truly like really amazing synergies in how things kind of unfolded with, Current being an influencer marketing platform along with services, gets acquired by Pattern that, like you said, is just sitting on so much data. And it's funny, like we just talked to Jed and some about like the data that we're sitting on, where like it's no one else has access to that, like you said. But then now with the emergence of TikTok Shop, so and that being the perfect complement to that being a marketplace, and Pattern and marketplaces, that's what we do. So it all kind of aligned, and now I feel like our TikTok Shop product or services is certainly like almost like a darling of Pattern, because it's the new shiny tool, but there's also like, you can't deny the amount of growth that is happening there. So can you just kind of give like a high level on what our TikTok Shop business is there? Like, we could get some solid clips out of that, because if you can kind of give like a holistic approach of how we combined our software, obviously, which is that we're rooted as a tech company, but also a services company, and how it kind of fits with what we're doing with our partners at Pattern and our core products, and then also with TikTok.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot there. I think I'll start with one of the first things you said, which is, there was a lot of synergies to do the deal. I think Dave must have had, he's kind of a sage on some of these things. And I think he probably knew Pattern has big international exposure, right? A lot of people know that. I think he could see what was happening in the China market with social commerce, and I think felt, even back 3 years ago, felt strong enough to make a bet that likely would happen in the US. Now, did we know it was going to be TikTok? Was it going to be YouTube? Could it have been Amazon? Who knows, like at the time. Obviously, TikTok is now emerged and it feels obvious. But I think that's where the bet was that we were going to come in and be able to like lead out some sort of like e-commerce, social commerce combination, influencer marketing, and that by having that muscle in the company, we would be better served than trying to play catch up. So the first year of us being integrated was really great, but there were definitely clunky aspects to it because we came as kind of a very software first approach business. And so our team was not like fully used to the way that brand management works and like the very, these are huge customers and a lot of revenue. Some of our deals are like sub $100,000, right? So it's a very different type of relationship. And so that learning curve was important, but it also prepared us for what ultimately launched as TikTok Shop, which is more of that full brand management cycle for a brand on that channel. And what does that business represent today? I think you said it's like the darling and whatever. I don't know about any of that. I think it's an acute pain that brands have right now, and they're trying to figure it out. And I've seen other times in my career where brands have an acute pain and they will not rest until it's solved, right? And how this actually functionally works is you have someone at a huge brand. An executive is like, what are we doing? What are we doing on TikTok? And then the 10 people below them are like, what are we doing on TikTok? They just asked about TikTok. I thought we said we weren't going to do it. Oh crap, we got to go do it. And so then inevitably it kicks off all of these conversations with vendors, with TikTok. And so we're just in that cycle right now. And so some of it, we're just lucky that we're good at it and brands are asking really hard questions and we can answer them really well. How long that cycle lasts, I think we're still in it for a while, right? This lasted for Meta for quite a long time. Lots of brands, everyone will forget these things, but lots of brands were like, oh, Facebook, like, I don't know, it seems expensive, or that seems like a fad. I'm not going to spend ad dollars there. Now it's like the lifeblood for most D2C brands. Like they literally cannot function if ROAS goes below a certain, markup. The brand will cease to exist, right? And so I think we're at the beginning phases of that for TikTok Shop. So the early movers are getting some advantage. CPMs are cheaper. Onboarding process is faster for them. And it's even new for TikTok. So I think our team is serving as kind of tip of the spear for answering, solving that acute pain for a brand. Should I be on TikTok Shop? How big is my opportunity there? What is it going to cost me? Can you guys do it? Scoring it out. Building all the processes related to that. And now we have about 70 brands on the platform that we're running end to end, right? And we probably close out this year well north of 100, but maybe even creeping up towards 150 brands that we're managing.
Yeah, the fact it just shows you that the opportunity is how great the opportunity is there. The fact that we'll have, whether if it's 70 or 150 brands by the end of this year, people forget that at the beginning of this year, TikTok was literally shut down.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I don't even that. That's so crazy that we're working with some of the biggest brands in the world on TikTok. And 5 months ago, you couldn't log into the app, which I think just says everything about the market of what's going on with TikTok Shop. It's like, they know it's like, sure, there's going to be hiccups in the beginning. Maybe we didn't expect the literally app to be turned off, but there's going to be hiccups. And that's what's interesting about the position our TikTok Shop and our pattern creators team is in. It's like, we're certainly like the old corporate America term of building the plane as we fly it. Everyone is in that situation, even TikTok. So I'd love to hear any just kind of examples of just our team being super nimble. And granted, we're in the best position to be the leading TikTok Shop provider or marketplace accelerator. But people things happen, like the app getting turned off. So I'd love just to kind of hear some either their mishaps or just learnings.
One unexpected learning for me that I've never run a brand, I've never owned a brand, right? I've run a ton of them, but I've never been the founder of a brand. And so some of the inventory and fulfillment stuff, I understand it. but I do not understand it at the level of like our operations team, right? And so I think because TikTok's another marketplace, we did not understand the dynamics related to operationalizing, like getting a box to someone through TikTok Shop. And there was a lot of unpacking to do there, and TikTok was constantly changing the SLAs on that. So basically, like what their expectations are, what boxes you have to check in terms of tech, and is our system talking to theirs? And then we kind of blew up the warehouse a bunch of different times because TikTok, unlike Amazon, is not smooth. It's actually the opposite of smooth. Like if you think about how content takes off on TikTok, you could have a video that you post it, has a couple thousand views, you're feeling decent, and then you wake up the next morning and it has 10 million views, right? It's not common, but that happens. If that has a shoppable video, like if that has a shoppable link on it, that you're going to get so many more sales than expected, right? As like the account manager on that than you did the day before. And so what are you supposed to do? Email the warehouse and be like, hey, overnight, something happened. No, like those orders are already hitting the dashboard, right? So and so we had so many times where there was just a lot of frustration of like, why didn't you guys tell us that this was going to happen? Didn't you know that, were you running this campaign? We're like, yeah, we just didn't know that we were going to have like 3 videos get 10 million views. That was not expected. We're happy that it happened. But so then we would go out of stock. Then TikTok punishes you for going out of stock. Then the creators are mad because you're out of stock. It's like, it's this viral, negative loop that can happen with inventory. And so there's a lot of internal friction and pain to solve that problem, and also just give people all the context required to understand this channel, that it is more spiky, and that it is more new customer focused. But now everyone understands that. We're way better at planning for inventory, planning for campaigns. I think we definitely hold a little bit more inventory than we do on other channels, which sucks. But at the same time, that's how you have to run TikTok Shop. There's not really another way to do it.
We're so embedded in, and even talking to people that are working with our 1P partners, and obviously us over the years selling to brands and saying, hey, we can run your influencer marketing program. A part of that sales motion or part of that messaging is, hey, you have to be really consistent. We're going to be super consistent. It takes a long time. There's going to be a ramp up phase. But what's so funny about TikTok Shop is like we say all that, but then there's also like the other, also it could be an overnight success.
It could break you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's been fun for me having these conversations with everyone at Pattern is like, I love hearing about people that, who inspires them at Pattern. Obviously, I always chime in and I'm like, oh yeah, Trig's that guy for me because I've worked with you forever, and I've always felt like our working relationship has always been kind of like, I want to do this for the company, but I also want to do this for Trig because he's my boy and I don't want to let him down. And it's interesting, you hear that like JLB says the same thing about Dave, right? And you build these relationships that are like these work relationships, but they're also like, this is someone I care about and they're a part of the company that I'm about, so I don't want to let them down. So I want to carry my end of the slack. Who at Pattern, and maybe that's not from the original current, org, who at Pattern has really impressed you and inspired you since the acquisition?
That's a hard list. I could probably take most of the podcast on this one, and that's not because I just am impressed by a lot of people. I mean, guys, it depends on how you ask that question. I think my recency bias right now today tells me I'm super impressed with Kawana and the sales team that is really had to take on PXM and TikTok, because it's all new. And I think that has been insane to watch. It was a little bit unexpected for me to see how quickly we were able to get them ramped, to understand TikTok, to commercialize it, like get the paper right, get the sales motion right. And then on top of that, being asked to take on new products that we're now developing and were announced at Accelerate. So I just am really impressed with that team. They care a ton. They work so hard on their deals. So that's like my recency bias answer, just because I've had a lot of exposure to that group, and I'm just really impressed. I think it's easy for sellers, marketers to kind of be like, oh, this is all new. It's going to take a long time, and it's like Excuseville a little bit, right? But they have not taken any of those outs. They're like, we're going to go hit this number. We're going to understand the market. We're going to be the smartest in the room at these things. And they spend a lot of time, asking all the people in our organization the right questions to understand it. And they're super humble about it too. So I think that's one for me. I think the other group that I'm super impressed with is probably our AI team that's led by Newell. I spent too much time with them in preparation for Accelerate, building some products. I just think the level of care is so high. It's as high as if they owned the whole company. Newell, Brian, all that entire team is just so impressive. They're working, many times like 24 hours. Like I saw them work 24 hours straight multiple times in that week. Maybe they had like an hour nap in there at the office, right? It's crazy. And you're not doing that all the time, but there's also a very small number of people that are even willing to do that, right? That's rare. And not everyone's required to, but for whatever reason, that team felt such a strong responsibility to deliver and execute. And that's just very impressive. And I think something to be admired for sure. And maybe my last one, I think I've interacted a lot more with JLB recently, and I think his ability to navigate the complexities inside of Pattern is super impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as good at that. I'm like I just want to create a hole through all the walls and just run through them, and I think that can be effective. But when you have like a big business that's already working really well, you don't necessarily want to break things all the time. And I think, JLB is just so good at okay, here's how we're going to go to market. Here's how we're going to think about this. Here's how we can tie these teams together. And that's been a really good example for me to watch.
So over the past 10 or so years that I've worked with you, and I've been in the influencer marketing space, we've obviously always been in the world of sending or seeding or gifting products to creators. And we work with a lot of brands. Like you said, you've never actually owned a brand, but you've worked with hundreds of brands. So you and I have worked with hundreds of brands, and then we go to Pattern, and now we're working with hundreds and hundreds and even more brands. And what's great about being around brands is some of the products are things you use every single day and things that you actually love and care about. I'm using Momentous, which is, one of our clients, one of your deals from TikTok Shop, great supplement company. What are some standout brands that you've worked with here at Pattern over the past few years that you just love, obviously the product, and love the brand?
Well, I think my entire supplement stack is clients at this point.
Yeah, always.
So I love all of them. I think I'm so impressed with Jeff's company at Momentous for sure. Again, that's probably a little bit of recency bias, but I just think we've now met with them a bunch of times and been onboarding them for the not only TikTok but all of their influencer marketing and affiliate stuff. I just think how they run the company is awesome. The culture of it is impressive. I think it's a culture of performance, but it's also a culture of be the best in your life, your whole life. And be a high performer in everything you do. And I think that's really cool. Not everyone fits into that, but they just attract the people that want to be in that type of company. And their products are also, you can just tell that that's how their products end up getting developed too. So it's kind of expensive and premium, but it is literally the best. You can trust that. And you have real hardcore athletes using that, not just endorsing it. They're just no, even if I endorse, in fact, we met some athlete that has to endorse another product, and they're yeah, but I don't actually take that. I take Mentis.
Yeah.
But they're just, it was a money thing. I'm okay, I get it. So that one's for sure just been cool. like recently. I think learning, like cutting our teeth with Philips has been incredible. Working with Karen on like that high of a level of enterprise, and their level of expectation around service data has definitely leveled our team up. And I'm so grateful that Karen had the patience to like, frankly, probably teach us a lot and work through. But that's an impressive organization and just willingness to be innovative at their size, right? It's so much easier for them to be like, yeah, let's not do TikTok. Let's just wait until all the like chaos is gone. But I think pushing that was really cool to watch and seeing how hard it is to sell those kinds of things internally. I think those would probably be the two shout outs that I have right now.
Yeah, when I showed up to the momentous TikTok shop event here in Miami, I didn't realize that Jeff was the CEO or the CEO was going to be there because I assumed it's like a huge, supplement company. And my brother-in-law who plays in the NFL is obsessed with it. Like it's like the premium supplement. And he was there. And at the end of it, he was breaking down the tables. He was like loading boxes. And I'm like, that's why that this company is literally crushing, because their CEO is like breaking down boxes and like doing the dirty work.
100%.
Super cool. I think like for, soundbite purposes, I normally ask, I say, like, where do you see pattern in 10 years and where do you see pattern in 1 year? Obviously feel free to answer that, but also, and I know you touched on AI, you mentioned that you enjoy working with Newell and the AI team, but, in these next year or decade, like what's kind of your elevator pitch on why a brand should invest in their TikTok shop marketplace and why they should invest with pattern creators?
Yeah, so I'll fire a few of those. I think pattern in 1 year is probably not in a similar spot to where we are now, but we'll have built and deployed significant automation on some internal things that we do that will change our company. So I think our external partners maybe won't even feel a ton of it yet, but that will represent increased growth and reduced cost. And that is going to happen. Like we have clear visibility to that.
Sure.
With what the teams are working on now. And so that's like in the next 12 months. So very, very awesome, bullish on that. In 10 years, I think Pattern is $100 billion company. Like that sounds insane, but that's the size of Shopify. I think Pattern is like one of the few companies that has a shot at doing that, and that we will be the layer of either agents, software, whatever we call it at the time, that is powering global marketplaces for brands. So how do you sell everywhere, in every medium, whatever forms in the future? Pattern is powering it with its data, with its insights, with its agents, running those systems. How it ultimately is priced, what's the business model? I don't know any of it because 10 years is so far away. But I just know that the team that is here working on it, the data that we have, and I would say the customer set that we have locked in with us now, we will like develop that. We will have the opportunity for it. I think there are other companies that will also take a pass at it, but I think Pattern has such a good shot at being that big and solving that hard of a problem. It is an impossible problem to win globally across all marketplaces, all mediums. I just think that's worth $1 trillion. It's just really, really tough, and I think Pattern has a shot at doing it. Where does TikTok Shop go is your kind of like sub question to that. I don't know. I think TikTok's going to get some competition. There's no way they don't. I'm super interested to see what happens when that happens. I hope it does, frankly. Like I hope YouTube, I hope maybe Meta tries. I don't know. They like sort of have tried twice. Someone has to come in and push them a little bit, and because they push themselves so hard. TikTok internally is the most aggressive organization I've ever seen. Like maybe a little unhealthy, but it's like it is what it is. Like that they are setting targets that everyone view as completely unreasonable, and they don't quite hit them, but they hit 10x what everyone else thought they were going to hit. So that's amazing. I just want to see someone else take that approach in the US with social commerce. So I think that's somewhat inevitable. There's too much money to be made. I will say, even though I'm running social commerce, I don't see Amazon being like dethroned. I think it's more likely that you would have some sort of, open AI, LLM based e-commerce system that starts taking share from Amazon and TikTok, and there'll be another derivative. It'll be like a new market of commerce that I think likely comes. But again, Pattern is perfectly positioned for that. We are literally already building products for it with Geo Scorecard and some of the other things that that we're working on related to LLMs and e-commerce. So, frankly, we probably don't care where it goes, but I think social commerce is going to continue to grow and be a huge market. But I think there are other markets coming too.
And if you're a brand that has yet to use TikTok or TikTok Shop and you have budget, because there's a lot of big legacy brands out there that have still not even dipped their toe in TikTok, why should a big Fortune 500 brand spend $100 million on TikTok or $1 million on TikTok Shop?
Yeah, 100 million?
Not 100,
I mean,
million.
We'll take it, but...
Yeah, we'll take it. We should margin it too instead of being passed through.
Look, I think if you're a legacy brand, what I will tell you is that when you go live on TikTok, you have such a massive advantage on conversion rate. Consumers are literally starving for brands that they recognize or that they've heard of. They're literally starving for them. And TikTok's also starving for you. They want your brand that's super high quality to be on the platform. TikTok will be willing to work with you, provide credits, different fee structures, not forever, but for like your first 6 months. So there's just a lot of kind of free benefit that you can get. And every enterprise brand that we've launched has come to the exact same conclusion. This is the cheapest channel that we run in terms of CPM and performance. So just like raw top of funnel marketing, everyone does a sort on their spreadsheet and TikTok beats it. 2, they also see massive lift when they start running their TikTok Shop effectively on their other channels. Now, it's not perfectly attributable. They can't figure out like how much exactly, but they know that their Amazon, their D2C, their retail channels are improving because of what they're doing on TikTok, which is obviously anecdotally is very obvious, makes sense. But all of them come back after 6 months with those data points and they want to invest more into TikTok. And frankly, big brands are the only ones that really have that opportunity. If you're a small D2C brand and you're doing really well, you're not in retail. You may not even be live on Amazon. You just have your D2C site and TikTok Shop. And so your opportunity to catch all those customers where they buy is smaller than if you're a big brand. And the other thing is big brands have already reached you and I and everyone else in the world a couple times. Right? So now if I get a piece of content that resonates with me, I've like gotten that much closer to purchasing. So I think that's really the real opportunity for big brands. I think all the other risks that brands are making up in their heads are pretty low. And what I would tell you is just go scroll through TikTok Shop. There are brands that are bigger than yours that are live on the platform. Coke and Pepsi are live on the platform. Philips is live on the platform. Like there's nothing your legal team or finance team can really tell you to convince you as an operator that you shouldn't be there. Go do it.
Perfect. Noting to clip this because I wanted you speaking directly to these enterprise brands. So this is perfect. Trig, thank you so much. You're the man. That's Pattern Unboxed. Obviously, you're always welcome to come and chat Unboxed.
Thanks, Johnny. Fun hanging.